G'day, mate. Great news. Dr. 40 is in, and Dr. 40 will see you now. How exciting for you. Dr. 40 is in the house, ready to diagnose, ready to heal. All right, let's get well together. This is a safe place to explore your feelings and to come to terms with our mortality. People who need people are the luckiest people in the world. So before we get to that, there's some shocking news coming out of Europe. So I want you to be sitting down for this. That Europeans, right? The Europeans are quite concerned about Afghanistan. And this is how concerned they are. The situation with Afghanistan has many Europeans convinced that they cannot rely on the United States to look after their security interests. Shock and awe. You mean Europeans cannot rely on someone else to look after their security interests? Whoa, this is truly shocking news. This is making me think that perhaps maybe I can't rely on you to wipe my bum. Perhaps I can't rely on you to look after my security interests. Perhaps I can't rely on you to look after my health interests. I mean, I'm thinking now that I can't rely on you to look after all of my needs. This is shocking. I mean, this is a real story in the New York Times. Many Europeans have become convinced that they cannot depend upon the United States to look after their security interests. Next, they're going to conclude that they can't depend upon the United States to look after their sexual interests or their medical interests. Wow. The Afghanistan fiasco, quoting from the New York Times, guys, has left many Europeans more convinced than ever that they cannot rely on the United States to look after their security interests, no matter who is occupying the White House. Wow, this reminds me of women who posed naked for Playboy, and then Playboy did not look after all their security, financial, and medical interests for the rest of their lives. Like Playboy just, paid them $20,000 to pose for a centerfold, but then Playboy didn't look after them for the rest of their lives. Or there are some women who go to bed with a mate, with a bloke, and then he doesn't look after them financially for the rest of their lives. I mean, this is truly disillusioning. And so the Europeans are finding that the American withdrawal from Afghanistan, it's a betrayal. They feel betrayed, right? Just like when you find out that other people don't have the priorities that you expected them to have, and so you feel betrayed. You feel betrayed because not every time that you run into your friends and acquaintances are they overjoyed to see you. You feel betrayed when you realize that your boss can replace you for someone who works harder and demands less money, and so you feel betrayed. Anytime you have any kind of human connection, it is always accompanied by the growing possibility of betrayal. You cannot have human connection without at times feeling betrayed. So why do we feel betrayed? Because we find out to our shock and awe that other people don't have the priorities that we expect and that we want them to have, such as putting us near the top of their list of priorities. So when we find out that our friends don't always have us at the top of their priorities, that our family members don't always have us at the top of their priorities, we feel betrayed, just like the Europeans and America's withdrawal from Afghanistan. How could this have happened? This is awful. So, I think Bertrand Russell said that if our friends knew what we were thinking, nobody would be able to maintain a friendship. Because I have friends, and it's not every minute of the day that I would be thrilled to put down what I'm doing and to interact with them. Like, I'll probably never get married because I think it's entirely possible that there will be occasions when my wife will want to talk about something and I will have a different priority then, such as earning a living or making a YouTube live stream. So I anticipate that if I'm lucky enough to get married, that approximately 50% of the time that my wife wants to talk to me, that won't be a good time for me to talk that very minute. I'm not prepared to like automatically put down everything that I'm working on, everything that I'm interested in, everything that I'm developing, everything that I'm thinking through to, oh, you need to talk. At the same time, I don't expect my wife or my friends or my family to just automatically put everything that they're doing on hold to like accommodate, my latest, emotional catharsis. Yeah, I might ruin my bachelor brand. I gotta watch out for my brand, mates. So, shocking news from Europe, and just applying that to our daily lives. Maybe we can't rely upon our boss to take care of our financial and medical needs for the rest of our life. Maybe we can't rely on our workplace to take care of our sexual and romantic needs for the rest of our life. Maybe we can't get all of our social needs met by our church or synagogue. Art Bell is in the house. And that's great news, not just for 40. It's great news for America. Okay, what's going on with the chat? Blessings to Luke, the last hope, the last legendary Australian after Crocodile Dundee dies. Saga on Australia has fallen. Lady Guest says they're descendants of their jailers. Oof. Yeah, women who shack up with dangerous men can't rely on other people to fix their problems. Okay, I know what you're thinking. 40, get back to diagnosis, therapy, and evidence. Conundrums in Modern American Medicine by one bloke, one author, Gerald Grob, is a medical historian, and the other author, Alan V. Horwitz, is a sociologist who specializes in medicine. This is such a fun book to read. I love this book. This is the conclusion. This is the final chapter. Where do we go from here? So I have no doubt that having access to healthcare and affordable healthcare increases your peace of mind and probably increases your quality of life and probably reduces, unpleasantness. Now, generally speaking, access to healthcare is not going to significantly increase your lifespan, right? But just knowing that it's there, like I would love to just have in my cupboard, a bottle of 30 Valiums. Like I haven't taken a Valium for 20 years, but yeah, I would like to know that there's like a bottle with 30 Valium that, after Ricardo kicks my ass in some online debate, that, if worse comes to the worst, or I'm going to take a long flight to Australia or something, and it's an overnight flight, that I can just take a Valium and chill. Ricola is not enough. I would love to just have a bottle of 30 Valium just for emergencies. Not as a crutch, not, for any ongoing use. It would give me peace of mind knowing that if I needed it, there was like a Valium for emergencies. But, Valiums are not as easy to obtain as they used to be, because the media got obsessed in the 1980s by pointing out like all these people who got addicted to Valium, or all the people who were offering themselves on Valium. So on the one hand, they were demonizing this anti-anxiety medication Valium. At the same time, they were praising SSRIs to the heavens, when really Valium and SSRIs, there's no empirical evidence that one is significantly better or safer, or finer or kinder a medication than the other. Look, so I understand access to healthcare and affordable healthcare gives you peace of mind. You don't worry about medical catastrophes that are going to wipe out your life savings. It's nice to know that if you break a leg, like I have been like more reluctant to play contact sports when I didn't have health insurance, because like if I broke an ankle or broke a wrist, I once was playing football with my synagogue and I broke this wrist. I was rushing the passer, and like these sisters, they blocked me and I fell down, and I broke my wrist in 1998. And then after I had the wrist surgery, coming out of surgery, it was a particularly vulnerable period in my life. It was like April of 1998. I had like a low scale, low grade, mini panic attack. Hey, so yeah, it's nice to have healthcare, but healthcare, generally speaking, is not going to extend your lifespan, and it's not usually going to make a big difference to the quality of your life. Probably make on average a moderate difference. Okay, so in the media, in our general culture, there's always great enthusiasm, all right? And I'm an enthusiast, so who am I to condemn enthusiasm and enthusiasts? Like, I'm always enthusiastic about something. I take something up one day, I chuck it away the next day. I'm just an intellectual gigolo. I fall in love with every beautiful idea that comes along, but I ultimately stay loyal to none. So we always have these new diagnostic categories. We always have these new pharmaceutical drugs, and exciting developments in medicine and medicalizing daily life. All right, but it doesn't really make much difference to your lifespan, and much of it makes no difference even to the quality of your life, and much of it even probably has more downsides than upsides. Okay, so in 2021, we laugh at diagnostic categories of the past. So in the mid-19th century, they would delineate more than 100 different fevers, all right? So these classifications have disappeared from the medical lexicon. So almost all the medical classifications and therapies that we're even using 50 years ago, we don't use anymore. And so we laugh at what they used to do 50 years ago, but what we do now, much of it is equally ridiculous as categorizing 100 different types of fevers. So what is RLS? What's the meaning of RLS? Restless leg syndrome. Press 1 if you got restless leg syndrome. Press 2 if you got chronic fatigue syndrome. Press 3 if you got major depressive disorder. Press 4 if you got fibromyalgia. All right, so there's as much evidence for restless leg syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and major depressive disorder as there's evidence for the more than 100 different types of fevers that doctors were diagnosing 170 years ago. So there's no difference between restless leg syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, major depressive disorder, and diagnostic categories from 100, 200 years ago. So many of our contemporary medical diagnoses completely lack an empirical foundation. Right? Generally speaking, studies into the efficacy of various medical therapies and medication, they don't really take genetics, for example, into consideration. So in that terrific book, The Nurture Assumption, Judith Rich Harris makes the point that there's no form of parenting that has been statistically shown to produce results, right? So there's the Chinese mother parenting and Jewish mother parenting and helicopter parenting and tough love parenting. There's no form of parenting that has been established to produce statistical results, right? So too, almost all studies about parenting and different forms of education, they don't take into consideration the genetics of who they're talking about. And so too with most medical diagnoses and medical therapies and pharmacological solutions. They don't take genetics into account, generally speaking. So think about chronic, CHD. What's that? Chronic CHD, medical abbreviation for congenital heart defects. All right? Congenital heart defects. Oh, CHD, that's got to be coronary heart disease. Okay, coronary heart disease. Let's think about coronary heart disease. So for the last 70 years, the heart doctors, cardiologists were continually updating and changing their advice, and they were claiming that chronic, heart disease was related to all these behavioral, risk factors like eating too much saturated fat, right? And so I was raised on this really unhealthy, horrible vegetarian diet. That's basically 80-10-10. 80% carbs, 10% protein, 10% fat. That's the diet I was raised on. It was horrible, just a horrible diet. So it's only when I was able to take, meat in the form of capsules that I've been able to turn my health around, and that's just in the last 3 weeks. So, I mean, obviously by our teeth structure and the way our digestion system works, we were built to eat meat. And it's such an antisocial thing to do, is to raise your kids vegetarian, right? But all the experts about chronic heart disease are always telling you, oh, this is a risk factor, and that's a risk factor, right? And there's very little empirical evidence that any of these risk factors actually play much of a role in chronic heart disease. And same with the causes of cancer. We were told that the causes of cancer are related to diet, and I think conservatives particularly love this kind of analysis, because conservatives have this huge belief in free will, and I'm not really eating meat. I'm just swallowing capsules that contain meat. All right, it's the medicine. All right, I'm just taking it for medicine. I'm not like tasting it. I'm not enjoying it. I'm just like swallowing capsules of meat, and damn, I feel good. I feel so good. I mean, finally, like after a lifetime of feeling like crap. Baruch Hashem, praise God. Right, and so all these claims about I'm only eating I can't eat meat directly because I got a phobia. And I'm sure I can overcome it, but I'm just too weak, and I'd rather just swallow it in capsule form. Okay, so we've had all these claims that chronic heart disease and cancer are related to diet or to behavioral attributes. Yeah, and conservatives love this, because conservatives have this strong belief that individuals are in control of their own destiny, right? So people left to center, they believe much more in bad luck, and paleocons and people to the right of conservatives, or people who have a strong belief in genetics, they're much more skeptical about free will. They think people essentially play out their genetics combined with their environment. But conservatives love the idea that they're in control of their own destiny, that we can make healthy choices and thus stave off chronic heart disease and cancer by making healthy choices and eating healthy and getting lots of exercise and good amounts of sleep and thinking positive thoughts, and we can be in control of our own destiny, right? That's a very typical conservative way of thinking. To be continued.